you're building a world from scratch, whether it's for a D&D campaign or a fantasy novel, you're probably creating a map, right? You might even be staring at a blank canvas in your favourite map-making software on the other tab on your computer. Because that's what everyone says, right? Build the world map first. Draw out your epic mountain ranges, kingdoms, forests, and don't forget that boiling desert that's somehow, inconceivably, right next to the Arctic Circle. But what if I told you that, right now, map making is the biggest mistake you could possibly make? Hey world builders, I'm Janet from World Anvil, a world building consultant, published author, and a game designer. And today I'm going to share something a little controversial. Why you might want to skip making your world map, at least to start with. But Janet, I hear you say, Tolkien had maps, George R.R. Martin had maps, every fantasy book I own has maps. And you're right, but here's the thing. Those maps were created to serve the stories that already existed, not the other way around. Not convinced? Here are 3 compelling reasons why you might want to put down that mapping tool, at least for now. Terry Pratchett's Ankh-Morpork might be my favourite fictional city, and that city developed through stories, growing organically with each novel. If Pratchett had started by pinning every single street to the map, we might never have had the richness and detail that developed over time. By not committing to a map, he allowed the city to become even better. In fact, there's a reason that RPG settings are deliberately open and flexible. For example, Greyhawk, the recently re-released early setting from Dungeons & Dragons, is intentionally sparse. Yes, there is a map, but it has a lot of uncharted territory, and that's by design. The idea is to uncover those areas through storytelling, letting GMs and players fill in the empty spaces and create something from their own imagination. Because starting with a highly detailed map means things are set. They're canon, and sometimes that doesn't leave a lot of room for flexibility. It makes it harder to add interesting locations and quirks to your world building later. In fact, you might be cheating yourself out of imaginative moments and details that will make your world richer and better. And even worse, your map might get in the way of your story. Because when you start with a detailed map, you're suddenly stuck with decisions you made before you even knew what your story needed. That mountain range might block a crucial plot point. That ocean might limit character critical movement. That capital city might be in completely the wrong place for your political intrigue setup. Instead of working around your map, let your geography grow alongside the rest of your world building and your story. That will allow you to add locations that serve your story as and when you need them. If you only wanted a glass of water, would you fill a whole bathtub? Because that's what most people do when they start with a world map. Most stories simply don't happen on the scale of an entire world. For example, The Lies of Loch Lamora takes place in a single city, Camor. Dragon Heist is an official 5e adventure that takes place entirely in the city of Waterdeep. Legends and Lattes takes place almost entirely in the city of Thun. Naomi Novak's Scholomance series is set entirely within a magical school. The Goblin Emperor takes place within an enormous palace. Gideon the Ninth takes place mostly in Canaan House, a Gothic mansion. And despite the limited active world-building area of these settings, they're rich with detail and layers, even the ones that take place in a single building or complex. Now, don't get me wrong, maps can be incredibly useful when you need them. That's why World Anvil has amazing interactive maps features that let your maps grow with your world. Click on the linked video walkthrough to check them out. But by starting with a whole world map, you're submerging yourself in the proverbial bathtub when all you needed was a glass of water. It's overwhelming, and if you're not careful, you'll drown. It's also possibly a form of procrastination. Are you putting off starting your story or world building the things you actually need for it by making that world map? Well, are you? Even if you one day envisage your world growing beyond the small area you're starting in, you can build that out later and even make maps for it gradually. Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series focuses on a single city and its immediate surroundings for the entire first book. And it's better for it. And here's my favourite reason to skip the world map. Undefined spaces create a sense of mystery. Remember how exciting it was watching Star Trek, or really any of the shows from the 1960s to today, and gradually discovering the vastness of strange new worlds and new civilizations? That exploration came from slowly revealed details, not from having a complete star map in episode 1 slapping you in the face. When you don't have everything mapped out, you can allow your players or readers to freely imagine what might lie beyond the known. Oh, and keep notes. Chances are they'll come up with some awesome speculation that you can either use or subvert later on. Oh, and if you're someone who gets bored and abandons projects, this can help you keep a sense of wonder and discovery for yourself. Not setting everything in stone immediately gives you the freedom to explore the mysteries of your world building, piece by piece, ensuring you always have an exciting new thing to chase. So that's 3 reasons not to start with a world map. But what should you do instead? Well, you don't need a detailed world map to be aware of the wider geography of your setting. I often use world building articles with brief notes, or a pencil sketch with simple circles. This keeps the flexibility and mystery of your lesser known lands, but allows you to introduce vague details of them. For example, your spices or furs might come from faraway places to the north. You don't need to know more than that right now. There might be various city-states or countries around your active world building area, but you don't need to know exactly where they are or all the details about them right now. A quick world building article will do. For detailed world building, start small and focus on the location where your story happens, or where it begins if you're not sure where it's going yet. Make sure you keep track of established details to maintain consistency. Then you can grow your setting organically, creating what your story needs for more agile world building as you need it. It'll give you more flexibility to include interesting ideas too. This doesn't mean that you can never make a map, but try waiting until you know which locations matter for your story, until you understand how different places connect, and when you have a sense of the scale your story actually needs. Remember, the Mass Effect series didn't start with a map of every system in the galaxy. It started with 1 ship, 1 station, and 1 urgent mission. The rest grew from there. Anne McCaffrey didn't create maps for her world-spanning Dragon Riders of Pern series of 24 novels. There's nothing wrong with using maps, even world maps, but make sure you're making one at the right time for you and for the right reasons, not just because you think you should. And if you are making maps, where should the cities go on them? My video about where to put cities on the map will help you out. Click here to watch it next. Now, you know what to do. Grab your hammer and go world build.